Wei Xun, who traveled to the ultimate world, became the strongest of the 12 spacetime walks because he did not belong to any particular time and space. Get the 6 Treasures Immortal Thief at the beginning and achieve top.level talent. No need to practice, your breathing will become stronger. Wang Dadong said, they say I have high talent, why is he even more abnormal than me? Ding Xiaoyu said, why don't I give him my Aries hand as well and let him make a pair? Wang Arthur. You said sword demons can infect the minds of others. How come Wei Xun dare not even show his face when he sees him? Qiu Qiu. Wei, can we date? Sunday, patrol, I want to chase you. Lei Ting. Hello Qiang, I like it a bit. Cai Yunhan. Are you really not considering your sister? Wei Xun, who was at the center of attention, gradually became stronger. The ultimate Jinke is not the end. The girl from the 12 realms. The strongest is what Wei Xun is looking for. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. 001 arrived at the golden time space at the beginning. You are listening at novel FUL.audio. Golden time and space. Several people frantically chased on the road. The 2 people being chased, one looks very young, while the other looks around 30 years old. The young people are Wei Xun who has traveled through time. As for the person who is actually 20.8 years old, but has maintenance similar to that of a young man in his 20s, it is Wang Dadong. Wang Dadong said in a high voice, if you want me to go back and study in the ultimate class, don't think about it. Then he jumped up and his body swept forward. Wei Xun lightly tapped the ground with his toes and jumped up with Wang Dadong. The chase continued, and Huyen Jueluo Xiu ran up from behind, panting heavily and saying, Dadong, this is an order from the Moxibustion Dance Alliance leader. You have no right to oppose it. Please, I'm already 20.8 years old and I still need to go back to high school. Is it true that I'm going there? Retorted Wang Dadong. I have already moved to 12 different time and space, why do you want me to go back to high school? Wei Xun was also speechless. Xiu turned his head and said to Wei Xun, Sun, although you are very strong, you still haven't finished high school. Then Xiu, who had a murderous heart, said to Wang Dadong, Dadong, you too. Recently, there have been many instances of abnormally high combat power indices in the golden space. Many people have resorted to any means to compete for the ranking on the KO list, and even resorted to higher level challenges. That's why the alliance leader wants you to investigate the reasons. Wang Dadong turned his head helplessly and said, why should I go back and study? Correction. Based on our preliminary investigation results, all the clues point to Ballet High School, so we want you to go back and work as an undercover agent because you haven't graduated from high school yet. Hey, even if I don't have to, what's the difference? Besides, after I graduate, my combat power index can be cultivated to 15,000 points in a short period of time, okay? Wang Dadong retorted. Ming walked heavily from behind Wang Dadong and said, but no matter what, you still haven't finished high school. Wang Dadong lowered his head and sighed, yes, I haven't finished high school, and even Xiaoyu and the narcissist haven't finished either. Ming's hand suddenly rested on Wang Dadong's shoulder, don't worry, the captain has helped you fight. This time, besides patrolling, the heartbroken man will support you on the spot. Wei Xun turned his head and said, heartbroken person. You haven't been in the golden space for long, that heartbroken person, he's a muggle. Wang Dadong explained. But what Wang Dadong doesn't know is, how could Wei Xun not be familiar with it? He was originally a person who traveled through time, and was given the means of the 6 Treasures Immortal Thief by the system at the beginning. Each breath can increase the combat power index. As a result, in just 3 years, Wei Xun's combat power index has increased to 17,000 points. Wei Xun, who had no identity in time and space, became the strongest 12 time and space walks under the leader of the Moxibustion Dance Alliance, because Wei Xun didn't have to suppress his combat power index no matter where he went. Before crossing over, Wei Xun was very familiar with the ultimate things. That heartbroken person was both a red dragon and a crazy dragon. So this seemingly harmless heartbroken person is not a simple character. Ming's hand rested on Wang Dadong's shoulder and said, "It's better to have than not." Wang Dadong and Wei Xun waved their hands at the same time and said, "Cut." Qiu waved at Wang Dadong and said, "Dadong, don't say much anyway. Just accept your fate and lead the patrol to complete the task well." Qiu asked Wei Xun, "Sun, why are you also following Wang Dadong around this time?" Wei Xun waved his hand and said, "Because I have already surpassed my level in college in other time and space, and don't you think it's cool?" Qiu suddenly stopped and looked at Wang Dadong and Wei Xun with a speechless expression. "Please, I'm very tired, okay?" The remaining people saw Qiu stop their steps and stopped one after another. Originally, a few people were standing on a large truck and running in place all the time. "Please, this is the coolest upgraded version of Harlem in the world," Wang Dadong said and started shaking on the truck. The unanimous gaze of the Eastern City Guard was welcomed. Qiu didn't manage Wang Dadong anymore and said to Wei Xun, "Sun, sometimes Dadong acts impulsively. You should watch him more." "Qiu, can you hold on over there?" Wei Xun asked. The battle between good and evil in Iron Time and Space has taken on a form of evenly matched forces, but Wei Xun knows that soon the balance of the battle between good and evil will shift towards the devil's side. Qiu also stood firm at this moment, stopping Wang Dadong's crazy shaking. "Sun, Dadong, this time you have come to the golden space, and I also hope that you can use the temporary peaceful environment of the golden space to quickly break through the combat power index to 20,000. Both Wang Dadong and Wei Xun can understand this sentence. In the Battle of Iron Time Space, a combat power of less than 20,000 is considered an absolute low to medium combat power, with a mortality rate of over 80%. Wei Xun knew everything, but he couldn't directly say that the final boss behind the scenes in this golden space was Yehenera City. As Qiu said, both he and Wang Dadong need a temporary peaceful environment to progress. Moreover, this time due to his appearance, he himself did not know where the situation would develop. After a moment of contemplation, Qiu said, "Sun, besides the abnormal fluctuations in the power of Chajin's time and space combat, we also hope that you can gather all the forces that can be gathered. The battle of good and evil in the entire time and space will not be too far away." Then Qiu took out a glove from behind Ares' hand. "This is the weapon that the leader found for you in 12 different time and space. I will hand it over to you now," Qiu said. After Wei Xun took the hand of Ares and gently accepted it, he spoke up, "Qiu, help me thank the leader." Wei Xun, as the strongest walker in the 12 realms of time and space, has never had a suitable weapon in his hand. According to the system's urine nature, it is highly likely that he will only be rewarded again when his combat power index exceeds the 20,000 mark. A handy weapon is very important for the current Wei Xun. It is well known that Dragon Vein AO provides assistance to Wang Dadong, as well as the sword power of Blue Snow, which is a bonus of weapons to the psychic practitioner themselves. Wei Xun himself has a combat power index of 17,000, and with the help of Ares in his hand, his combat power is far beyond just one level. Qiu patted Wei Xun's shoulder and said, "Sun, among the young generation's combat power, you are the most outstanding one. Don't let us down." Wei Xun smiled calmly and said, "Of course. Just kidding. Not to mention anything else, even the 6 treasures immortal thieves on his body can make Wei Xun the top fighter in this golden time and space. Moreover, Wei Xun also has a system that can be rewarded at any time." The world in Wei Xun's eyes began to become chaotic as the truck moved. Golden time and space, the ultimate class, I'm Wei Xun. 002, give you 3 seconds. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wang family. Wang Dadong disguised himself as an obedient office worker, while Wei Xun's identity was that he had not found a place to live temporarily and was a colleague living in Wang Dadong's house. Mom and Dad, then let's go to work, Wang Dadong said obediently. Wei Xun also rode a small donkey and politely said, goodbye, uncle and aunt. Wang Tianyang grabbed Wang Dadong and Wei Xun and began to pray, may the peace of the Lord be with you, and may the wisdom of heaven constantly awaken your soul. Prayer is in the name of victory through the Lord Jesus, Amen. Wei Xun and Wang Dadong also spoke at the same time, Amen. Wang Dadong rode a small electric donkey and waved to his parents, saying, Dad and Mom, goodbye. Wei Xun rode his bike and followed behind Wang Dadong, as if they were two normal office workers. Until passing a wall, Wang Dadong's motorcycle suddenly turned into a motorcycle, speeding along the main road. But Wei Xun was even more extreme, turning the little electric donkey into a supercar and instantly leaving Wang Dadong behind. When he arrived at a place, Wei Xun's car suddenly stopped and said to a girl, Hey girl, are you interested in chatting? The straight long legs turned upwards, revealing a devilish figure that had suddenly turned around. What are you saying? Cai Yunhan's words always have a kind of domineering aura. When Wei Xun saw that face, he was also taken aback. He had already run far away, but he didn't expect to meet the Diamond Sisters. But it should be said that Cai Yunhan is indeed spicy and beautiful enough. Indeed, it's quite similar, Wei Xun said. Cai Yunhan frowned and said, like, what like? Wei Xun once fought against the back of summer and cold in iron time and space. So when I see Cai Yunhan, I also feel a sense of familiarity in my heart. Like unifying temptation, sir. After Wei Xun finished speaking, he moved his foot and the gas pedal disappeared without a trace. Cai Yunhan stood behind him and shouted, Don't let me catch you. If I catch you, you'll be dead. It should be said that while teasing Cai Yunhan, Wei Xun had a feeling of bullying his friend's wife in his heart. Most importantly, this feeling actually thinking of this, Wei Xun quickly shook his head and threw away the unclean thoughts inside. Wei Xun's car finally stopped at the entrance of Ballet High School. He looked at his watch board, and Wang Dadong slowed down to 2 minutes. Wang Dadong's motorcycle had just stopped when he said to Wei Xun, Hey, did you make a mistake? Why are you a sports car? It's written like this in the script. What can I do, or else you can kill me? Wei Xun looked completely ungrateful. What else did Wang Dadong want to say? Wei Xun pointed to the plaque on the ground. The plaque is prominently inscribed with the words, Private Ballet Senior High School. Wang Dadong smiled with extreme cruelty and said, Someone dares to cause trouble at Ballet High School. It's really boring. When Wei Xun was speaking to Wang Dadong, he stepped on the gas pedal and entered Ballet High School first. Hey, you're not talking about martial arts, okay? Wang Dadong rode his motorcycle and caught up. It's not uncommon to see a car at a private high school like Ballet High School. This high school itself is about the same size as a university, and most of the students are children of wealthy families, so the school will also be the same. Within Ballet High School, the alarm in the principal's office suddenly sounded, and Xiaoyu, who was still drinking tea, immediately threw away his teacup and began to fully arm himself. Instructor Su Buki and teacher Gu Wenjing were using binoculars when they saw an exploding head with dozens of young men walking in a fierce manner from a distance. They were so scared that they quickly threw the binoculars at Xiaoyu. After Xiaoyu took the telescope, he also secretly glanced at it, which suddenly attracted the gaze of the explosive head. He quickly threw away the telescope in his hand and shouted as he ran, Oh my! For a while, the whole Ballet High School became a mess. Many students hide directly in the toilet and some try to force a position, but are kicked out directly by them. Some find the bottom of the stairs and curl up alone inside. When Sabi Si arrived with a group of younger brothers, the scene was empty. Hey, Call out the strongest one from ballet high school. Sabi Si shouted. However, there was not even a sound in the entire ballet high school, and only the wind responded to him. What's going on now? Did your key boss from ballet high school become so scared that he couldn't control his urine and ran to hide to see a doctor? Ha ha ha. Under the crazy ridicule of Sabi Si, all the younger brothers laughed along. Hey, shut up. A voice suddenly came from behind. This sound surprised the ultimate group of people prepared in the dark. Sabi Si suddenly turned around, but saw nothing. The younger brothers also began to search for the figure of that person everywhere, but in the end, they found nothing. Are you having a short circuit in your brain, speaking without showing your face? You're a ghost. Sabi Si raised his wrench and warned. The voice rang out again, do you just want to see me that way? Shwa. A figure appeared like a ghost and stopped right in front of Sabi Si. Ah, ghosts. Sabi shouted loudly and smashed the wrench in his hand. Bang. Before Sabi Si's wrench could fall, Wei Xun's fist had already hit Sabi Si's abdomen. Sabi Si was knocked back 20 meters by this punch and half knelt on the ground, spitting out clear water. Wait until it slows down a bit before you can see that young and unworthy face clearly. Sabi Si, with a grim face, took out a bottle of red pills from his pocket and swallowed them all. The students of the ultimate class hiding in the dark can no longer stand idly by. Hua Linglong and that person immediately stopped in front of Wei Xun. Hua Linglong looked at Sabi Si on guard and said, it's hell vision. After swallowing 5 banned drugs, Sabi Si's combat power index skyrocketed from the original 3,000 points to 8,000 points. Sabi Si, who had 8,000 points of combat power, raised his wrench and said, I'm making you crazy. The 8,000 point combat power index has already surpassed that of Flower Spirit Dragon and that one. Neither of them dared to forcefully take on the wrench in Sabi Si's hand now. But Wei Xun just reached out and pushed them away, whispering, I'll give you 3 seconds. Sabi Si, who already had an 8,000 point combat power index, saw that Wei Xun was still so crazy and raised his wrench to kill him. Don't assume that you are the main characters and can act so forced. Bang! Sabi Si suffered another punch in the abdomen. His combat power index, which relied on banned drugs, was also shattered with a punch. I said I'll give you 3 seconds, you won't cherish it, Wei Xun whispered in Sabi's ear. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 003 Confronting Lei Ting. You are listening at novel FUL.audio. Sabi Si knelt down in front of Wei Xun in a daze, unable to mobilize any more strength on his body. At this moment, Wei Xun's combat power index is also evident. Wei Xun. 10,000 Wei Xun turned to Sabi Si's younger brother and said, hey, why don't you quickly take your boss to the hospital? The group of little brothers ran over trembling and helped their boss run out in a panic. Hey, the road is over there. Upon hearing Wei Xun's words, a group of headless flies scurried in the right direction and fled in embarrassment. Feeling the combat power index on Wei Xun's body, Hua Linglong and that one began to be on guard. Even the entire ultimate class appeared very seriously in front of Wei Xun to block the way. 10,000 points of combat power index, which is only possessed by KO.2. Moreover, after breaking through the 10,000 point combat power index, Wei Xun did not indicate that this was KO. 2, which means that there is a 10,000 point combat power expert outside the KO list in the university industry. Lei Ting, who had been preparing to watch the battle on the second floor, couldn't stand idly by anymore. Among these power indices, a 10,000 point combat power is a watershed, and a strong player with a 10,000 point combat power can completely defeat 2 or even several masters with a 9,000 point combat power. Lei Ting jumped down from the second floor and happened to stand at the front of the ultimate class, in front of Wei Xun. "Who are you?" Lei Ting asked coldly. Wei Xun waved his hand and smiled, saying, "Lei Ting, who ranks third on the KO list and is a well-known king in the university industry, seems to be slightly weaker than expected when I saw her today." Lei Ting, who was looked down upon, immediately emitted a purple light ball in her hand. Mighty Walker. Lei Ting, belonging to Golden Time and Space, Power Index 9000, KO ranking. KO.3, trait. Has a strong affinity for lightning abilities, the legendary Thunder Body. All the attributes of Lei Ting were flashed through Wei Xun's mind, which was equivalent to seeing the other person through. The combat power index on Wei Xun's body was frozen at 10,000 points, and he looked at dozens of opponents with a smile on his face. "You don't think you're my opponent, do you?" The tone was extremely contemptuous, yet quite confident. After seeing this scene from a distance in the principal's office, Xiaoyu excitedly said, "Let's fight." Su Buki snatched the telescope from Xiaoyong's hand and said, "Let me take a look too." Xiaoyu was about to tap Su Buki's head when he heard Su Buki exclaim in surprise, "Is that Wang Dadong?" Gu Wenjing also exclaimed excitedly, "Wang Dadong, that must be Wang Dadong." Xiaoyu snatched the telescope from Su Buki's hand and from a distance, there was indeed an additional person beside Wei Xun. He will never forget that person's face in his lifetime. "Wang! Wang! Wang!" Su Buki said in surprise beside him, "Principal, how did you become a little dog?" Xiaoyu smashed a telescope onto Su Buki's helmet and angrily said, "Dog, you're big, it's Wang Dadong. The ultimate gathering of former and current leaders." Wei Xun turned around and smiled at Wang Dadong, who was still riding on the motorcycle, saying, "You're late." Wang Dadong said helplessly, "How could you have a sports car? It's not fair." Lei Ting across from them looked at each other and didn't pay any attention to her, so she couldn't help feeling angry anymore. "Hey, have you guys had enough trouble?" Wei Xun reached out to stop Lei Ting's anger and said, "Not yet, please wait a moment." Ignored, Lei Ting threw the purple light ball in her hand directly and threw it towards Wei Xun and Wang Dadong. At the next moment, Wang Dadong and Wei Xun both dodged and took a step forward, and surprisingly, the purple light ball was directly smashed by the two of them. Mighty Walker. Wang Dadong, belonging to Golden Time and Space, Power Index 15,000, Weapon. Dragon Pattern Pan, trait. When encountering strength, one becomes stronger. Wang Dadong's panel looks much better than Lei Ting's. The two of them teamed up to smash Lei Ting's purple light ball, and Wang Dadong's combat power index was also evident. Wang Dadong. 10,000. Wang Dadong chose to use the same 10,000-point combat power index as Wei Xun to deter the enemy. The person standing in the crowd couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Usually, it's difficult to see a 10,000-point combat power index, but this time it's just 2. Lei Ting also felt a lot of pressure. From the beginning of the confrontation, she knew that these two people in front of her were above her in terms of combat power and talent. Wang Dadong and Wei Xun glanced at each other, then both smiled and withdrew their combat power index. This confused the ultimate group across from them. "Little sister, may I ask how to get to the principal's office?" Wang Dadong asked with a smile. The one with a lively mind quickly pointed in a direction and said, "Over there." Wei Xun walked past Lei Ting with both hands in his pockets before saying, "Thank you." Faced with Wei Xun's irrationality, Lei Ting had planned to take action, but the feeling from that moment was definitely not wrong. At the moment Wei Xun walked past her, he stole a part of her combat power index. Now her combat power index is only 8,700 points. Although she could quickly return from cultivation, it still surprised her. What means is this to steal the opponent's combat power index in front of them? Although Lei Ting was very angry, she temporarily dared not move again. Wei Xun's move just now was undoubtedly revealing that you are not a match. Wang Dadong, carrying his backpack on one shoulder, waved to the crowd and said, "We will meet again soon." Watching the two of them leave gracefully, the hearts of the ultimate group are mixed with mixed feelings. They've been smashed by someone and haven't been able to retrieve the venue yet. Jin Baosan, who had been hiding in the dark all along, finally stood up and cautiously looked towards the direction where Wei Xun and the others had left before daring to approach Lei Ting. "King, that person is the ultimate boss of the class 10 years ago, Wang Dadong. 10 years ago, he was also a KO.3 like you, but now he's a bit stronger than you." "It's normal," Hua Linglong frowned and said, "What are you talking about?" as she listened to Jin Baosan's derogatory remarks about Lei Ting. "Master Hua, that's true. Donga and his friend both have a combat power index of 10,000 points, Jin Baosan retorted with a wry expression. "Of course, King, don't worry, Donggu won't do anything to harm the ultimate class, because he established the ultimate class back then." Jin Baosan turned his head and nodded to Lei Ting. Lei Ting took a deep look at the direction Wei Xun and his companions were leaving, and wiped her ear, saying, "Wasting me time." Although she said so, Lei Ting already listed Wei Xun and the other two as first-class opponents in her heart. Those two people are too strong. 004 turned out to be a little rascal. You are listening at Novel FUL.audio. Wei Xun and Wang Dadong arrived at the principal's office all the way. Xiaoyu and the others held shields and looked at Wang Dadong and the others with great caution. In turn, alumni Wang Dadong, "May I ask why you came back to your alma mater?" Xiaoyu asked in a trembling voice. "Director Jia." Wang Dadong had just called out Director Jia when Xiaoyu pointed at his brand. "Sorry, Jia. Principal, after all, you know my love for learning. As the saying goes, there is a way to take pictures in books, and there is granite in books. I'm coming back this time. Just to start studying again, after all, I haven't finished high school." Qiao showed an extremely disdainful expression, and when he heard that Wang Dadong was going back to study, he immediately put on a very hesitant look. Qiao returned to his seat and crossed his legs, saying, "Alumni Wang Dadong, I am certain of your love for learning, but you are already 28 years old. Are you going to be Jin Baosan? The second oldest high school student in history?" Due to the presence of the Six Treasures Immortal Thieves, it was difficult for those around Wei Xun to notice his aura. At this moment, Wei Xun took the initiative to step forward and said, "Principal Jia, I also came with Wang Dadong to handle the school transfer." Speaking, Wei Xun also voluntarily submitted his resume. After reading Wei Xun's resume, Qiao instantly smiled happily. Because Wei Xun's resume prominently states that he is a young master from the top 5 groups in the northern region, and his family has billions of assets to inherit. I don't know if it's true or not, but Wei Xun's supercar is definitely worth it. In turn Wei, I can adjust which class you want to go to. Qiao instantly showed a flattering smile. Wang Dadong gave Wei Xun a very uncomfortable look. This guy, as a walker in 12 different time and space, is not bound in any of them. So Wei Xun's actions in any time and space will not cause any reaction. This guy often resells gold and silver antiques from various time and space, to the point where he is already worth billions at a young age. Wei Xun spoke confidently, "The ultimate class." Qiao frowned first, then suddenly laughed and said, "You're going to the ultimate class, of course you can." Wei Xun just suppressed the appearance of Lei Ting, and he still remembers it vividly. When Wei Xun arrives at the ultimate class and competes with Lei Ting, both sides will be defeated. The ultimate class will be leaderless, and he will have to do whatever he wants to do. Wang Dadong took a step forward and asked, "What about me?" Qiao pouted and said, "Alumni Wang Dadong, you're already 20.8 years old. Well, there's still a place in the school welfare society. Why don't you go work in the welfare society?" Wei Xun and Wang Dadong are clearly the same group of people. If Wang Dadong and Wei Xun were to enter the ultimate class at the same time, it would be chaotic. Lei Ting will definitely be crushed to death by the two of them. Wang Dadong was about to have a fit when he heard Wei Xun secretly say, "Dadong, your sudden return to the ultimate class is indeed quite high. Profile. Why don't you go to the welfare club and join the Heartbroken Man? We can also get in touch when we have something to do." Wang Dadong immediately whispered and retorted, "Are you joking? I'm Wang Dadong. Can the ultimate class be considered the ultimate class without me?" Wei Xun said helplessly, "When you go to the welfare club, you're also at ballet high school. What's wrong with the ultimate class? Isn't there still me?" Wang Dadong finally compromised and said, "Okay then. Anyway, he doesn't want to go back to high school either. If this gets out, he'll have to be laughed off." Being a mastermind behind the scenes and manipulating the overall situation in the welfare society should be what Wang Dadong's intelligence should do. If Wei Xun knew what Wang Dadong was thinking now, he would definitely give him a backhand fight to make him understand reality. Wang Dadong suddenly reached his hand behind his back, and Xiaoyu and the others immediately became nervous. The shield was once again raised in front of him, and Xiaoyu trembled and said, "Wang Dadong, you, don't act recklessly. We can discuss everything." Wang Dadong's eyes were very determined, and he immediately pulled out the thing behind him. "I'm not prepared for it. Look, I've even prepared our school uniforms. Now that they're ready, we only need to put on one set." After seeing that it was the school uniform instead of the flat-bottomed pot that he despised deeply, Xiaoyu was completely scared and fainted. Wei Xun took the school uniform and said to Wang Dadong, "They're quite afraid of you." As the creator of the ultimate class, Wang Dadong felt particularly deeply among the first batch of teachers. Although Lei Ting is terrifying now, at least to be reasonable, the former Wang Dadong. In simple terms, her IQ is too low and she can't understand people's words. Wei Xun raised his hand and said to instructor Su Buki, "By the way, my name is Wei Xun. Wei from Chao Wei, Patrol of the Sky." Su Buki supported Xiaoyu and nodded blankly. He doesn't know yet, it won't be long before the name Wei Xun will resound throughout the university community. After leaving the principal's office, Wang Dadong and Wei Xun separated. He happily runs a welfare society with heartbroken people every day. As for Wei Xun, after changing into his school uniform in an instant, he gradually moved towards the ultimate class. The ultimate class is located in the corner of the school, which can also be called the end of this school. After all, the location of the ultimate class is a forbidden area that is difficult for ordinary students to venture into. The entire floor where the ultimate class is located has only one ultimate class. Wei Xun's footsteps were very light, which was a characteristic brought to him by the Six Treasures Immortal Thief. This characteristic makes him easily overlooked in many cases, so the most common thing he does when doing the 12-time and space walk is assassination. After arriving at the entrance of the legendary ultimate class, Wei Xun looked around and saw that there was no one in front or behind, only the noise of this class echoing throughout the corridor. "Oh, is this the ultimate class? I'm here." Wei Xun pushed the door open and entered, instantly quieting the originally noisy classroom. The people in the ultimate class didn't have much goodwill towards Wei Xun. After all, Wei Xun just now ignored Lei Ting and even played tricks on her. Wei Xun turned a blind eye to the cannibalistic gazes and walked straight to the podium, picking up chalk and writing two large characters. "Wei Xun. This is my name. You can call me Xun, or you can call me Wei Gu. I can handle it," Wei Xun said calmly. Hua Linglong instantly patted the table and stood up, glaring angrily at Wei Xudao. "No matter what your name is, the ultimate class is not the place where you should act wild." Wei Xun propped his forehead and struggled to recall, "Why were you a KO? Your combat power index." Hua Linglong's golden combat power index burst out instantly, and he loudly said, "Hua Linglong, KO.6, combat power index 7000.8000. Wei Xun showed a sudden realization and chuckled lightly, so he's a little rascal. P.S. New book on the road, kneeling down for flowers, monthly tickets, tips, recommended tickets for collection. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 005 Overpowered Everyone. You are listening at novel FUL.audio. Hua Linglong looked angrily at Wei Xun and said, "You." In the end, he couldn't say a word. Because of his combat power index, in Wei Xun's eyes, he is indeed a small weakling. Lei Ting also stood up at this moment and said in a cold voice, "Anyway, the ultimate class is not the place where you should act wild." A purple battle force surged out of Lei Ting's body and finally froze at 8,700 points. The ultimate group of people turned around in surprise. Their king's combat power index has decreased. Wei Xun smiled lightly and looked at Lei Ting, saying, "You wouldn't think you're really my opponent, would you?" Wei Xun. 8,700, 9,000. 9,500, 10,000. Wei Xun intentionally skyrocketed his combat power index from 8,700 points. At first, he was evenly matched with Lei Ting, but when his combat power index froze at 10,000 points, he instantly surpassed the entire ultimate class. 10,000 points of combat power will always be a watershed. Wei Xun flashed up to Lei Ting and whispered, "The position of the ultimate leader of the class. If I want it, can you stop it?" Lei Ting didn't speak, but her hair began to calm down and her combat power index began to rise. Lei Ting. 8,700, 8,800. 8,900, 9,000, 90,50. She has been working hard to break her limits, but still appears insignificant in front of Wei Xun. Wei Xun smiled and looked at Lei Ting, who took a gentle step forward. Wei Xun. 10,000, 11,000. Wei Xun's combat power index has even increased by 1,000 points. Hua Linglong said with great concern, "His combat power index is only 1,000 points short of the legendary KO.1. The KO.2 and KO.1 in the university industry are not outstanding, and Lei Ting is the absolute hegemon. However, the current transfer student has a combat power index as high as 11,000 points. How could such a powerful person not be well known in the university industry before?" said the person with great confusion. Wei Xun turned his head with great interest to look at Hua Linglong and said, "Goddess, is that what you said about KO.1? Wei Xun smiled lightly and his combat power index skyrocketed again. Wei Xun. 11,000, 12,000. The white combat power index on Wei Xun's body made everyone present stumble, even the hot pot in front of Jin Bao San was blown to the ground. The boiling soup spilled on the ground and flowed everywhere, causing Jin Bao San to scream in fear, "It's been fatal. Can we pour human flesh over it?" The people present didn't pay attention to Jin Bao San because they couldn't stand still on their own. Lei Ting, who was at the center of the storm, slipped out completely. Lei Ting stared fixedly at Wei Xun and whispered, "If you have anything to do, come to me." Lei Ting, who was blown away by Wei Xun's fighting power and posted on the back wall, angrily said these words, and Wei Xun directly pinned her to the wall with one step. Wall thump. Wei Xun looked down at Lei Ting and smiled, "Coming at you, are you sure?" The distance between the two was very close, and their behavior was also very ambiguous. Lei Ting turned her head in shame and anger, saying, "You're despicable. Despicable. From the moment I entered this classroom, it was the people in your class who were causing trouble. I was always passive in resistance. Besides, did I use any means of desperation? It's just that my combat power index is higher than yours." Wei Xun's fighting power filled the entire class, making it suffocating. Wei Xun gently picked up Lei Ting's chin and looked straight into her watery big eyes, saying, Or do you think that your ultimate class is used to bullying and thinking that everything is provocation? You were outside just now, weren't you provoking me? Lei Ting asked in response. Outside? Are you saying that I helped you drive away Sabi C, or was it just a defensive posture? I didn't even take any action, it seems like you were arrogant and attacked me first. Wei Xun said sternly. If I didn't trouble you, you should have burned Gao Xiang. Are you taking a bite back now? Wei Xun couldn't help but sneer. The ultimate group of people who heard this sentence also lowered their heads in shame, as if they were at fault first. At this moment, a sweet voice sounded from behind. Wei, this is our fault. I apologize to you here. Can you let go of the king first? Wei Xun turned around and saw Qiu Qiu, who had a very sweet appearance and a decent figure. Upon hearing these words, Wei Xun instantly let go of Lei Ting and smiled, saying, of course, I have given sweet sister the most face. Wei Xun effortlessly withdrew the power enveloping the ultimate squad and then approached, asking, little sister, can I invite you to dinner together? Qiu Qiu blushed instantly, but she waved her hand and said, it's not a little sister anymore. My name is Qiu Qiu, and you can also call me the president. Also, Wei, I don't have time tonight. I have to go to the library to work. Wei Xun shrugged helplessly and said, okay then. Then Wei Xun sat down in a seat as if there was no one around, and surprisingly, he bent his head and began to fall asleep on the table. I'm not interested in the position of the ultimate leader, and you guys are too weak. They're not my prey. I just want to say, don't provoke me if you have nothing to do in the future. The sound came from Wei Xun's desk, which surprised everyone in the ultimate class. They thought this guy would go on a killing spree. But Wei Xun, who was sleeping with a bent posture, suddenly straightened up and punched out. The standing flower spirit dragon bent down, continuously spitting out clean water, with a fierce face. I don't really like this sissy. Dye your yellow hair back to me tomorrow, it looks annoying. After saying these words, Wei Xun bent his head again, and the final group of people stared at him in a daze. Lei Ting walked up to Wei Xun with difficulty and warned, don't touch the spirit dragon again, otherwise even if you have 12,000 points of combat power, I will fight against you. Wei Xun said impatiently, I understand. The weak will speak out and warn, while the strong will choose to take action directly. The sound of high heels stepping on the floor caught everyone's attention. A graceful female teacher suddenly walked in, her smile making people feel very comfortable. Hello everyone, I'm your new class leader. My name is Tian Xian, the beautiful young woman said. Wei Xun lowered his head and sneered, is he finally coming? He lifted his head slightly and looked at fake Tian Xian on stage, his eyes cold. He knew that this person was selling banned drugs, but the original drama did not specify which organization she came from, nor was it clear who her superiors were. But since Wei Xun has arrived, it's impossible to let him go again. Tian Xian smiled and said, next, I will introduce 2 new classmates to everyone. P.S. New books on the road, seeking flower monthly tickets, evaluation tickets, rewards and collections Qingming outing in happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 006 Fake Tian Xian. I'll see you at the door of death. You are listening at Novel FUL.audio. Fake Tian Xian turned around and saw the 2 words on the blackboard, then exclaimed in surprise, the first student here is Wei Xun. Did he already come to class just now? Everyone involuntarily looked towards the direction where Wei Xun was sleeping. Okay, since everyone is familiar with Wei Xun, let me introduce you to a second new classmate. Everything of fake Tian Xian was imitated perfectly. If Wei Xun didn't know in advance that she was fake, he might have been deceived too. After Kakuta Xian finished speaking, a cold young man entered the classroom with a backpack on one shoulder. At the moment she saw him, Lei Ting couldn't sit still. Wanjun. Lei Ting exclaimed in surprise. Kakuta Xian began to introduce, "Oh, this student is the second student I want to introduce to you, Zhong Wanjun." Zhong Wanjun stood on the stage and said lightly, "Hello everyone, my name is Zhong Wanjun." Then he walked down the podium on his own, found a seat in the corner of the classroom, and lay down on the table like Wei Xun. Hua Linglong is best at observing people's micro-expressions. Even if he is a bit stiff from being beaten by Wei Xun at the moment, he still goes to observe the people around him. Hua Linglong was also somewhat surprised, as King seemed to be very concerned about the newly arrived Zhong Wanjun. Looking at the students making a pot of porridge, fake Tian Xian was very encouraging and said, "Well, I will be your new class guide in the future, and we will work hard together to enter the university." No one paid attention to her downstairs. This is the ultimate class. Talking to the people of the ultimate class about taking the college entrance exam is just a joke, isn't it? But fake Tian Xian still said to herself, "Come on, let's open page 56 of the book." No one's thoughts were focused on Fada Xian, because everything she had just experienced didn't create a good atmosphere in the entire classroom. Bell after a series of ringing bells, it was finally time for class to end. Zhong Wanjun leaned against the table and slept with his headphones on, as if everything outside had nothing to do with him. And Lei Ting stood up and walked towards Wei Xun. Wei Xun looked up at Lei Ting and asked with a smile, "What's up?" "We were wrong before, but since you have entered the ultimate class, I also hope you can abide by the rules of the ultimate class," Lei Ting said softly. Wei Xun's eyes tilted upwards and said, "Rules are defined by strength. Of course, I have always been greedy for money and lust. If you are willing to bribe me, it is not impossible." Lei Ting frowned and said, "What do you want?" Wei Xun shrugged and said, "I haven't figured it out yet. How about you let Qiu Qiu have dinner with me and I'll think about it carefully." "Get lost." Lei Ting angrily turned around and returned to the long sofa. Zhong Wanjun, who had been pretending to sleep, also raised his head slightly at this moment. Lei Ting usually doesn't say so much nonsense unless the other party is very strong. Zhong Wanjun quietly placed the earphones under the table, constantly observing Wei Xun. Once Wei Xun wants to do something bad to Lei Ting, he will definitely be the first to rush forward. Wei Xun looked at the crowd in the ultimate class, and this feeling was very strange. The ultimate class doesn't have the same sense of urgency as when they were in high school in the original world, let alone the desire to get into college. In their eyes, there is only the academic community, only the ultimate class, and only violent battles. Not only the ultimate class, but almost every place in the 12 time and space that Wei Xun has walked through has this feeling, and the university world is the pinnacle of this world. The leader asked him to gather all the forces that could be gathered, and the ultimate team was a very good group. In the ultimate class, these people can all be considered geniuses, but Golden Space lacks martial arts, which leads to Golden Space's combat power being considered the lowest among the 12 time spaces. With just a little training, these people will become a rare force. But what's a bit headache is, I seem to have offended all these people. Moreover, Wei Xun has never learned the same thing as bowing his head, he can only take one step at a time to observe. Wei Xun, a fan, persisted in his daze until school was over, and then struggled to leave the classroom with his backpack. Although I don't have to do anything in the ultimate class, it seems like being associated with high school can be tiring. As soon as Wei Xun walked out of the classroom, a message inexplicably appeared on his phone. Meeting at the Gate of Death. Lei Ting. Wei Xun is not surprised at all why Lei Ting has his contact information. Xiaoyu and his two lackeys have always nodded and bowed to the wealthy elites like Lei Ting. Wei Xun lifted his phone and replied, "Wait a moment, we'll be there soon." The Left Dead Gate is indeed a very remote place, and even many students from Ballet High School don't know where it is. Wei Xun also inquired several people before finding this place. When Wei Xun looked up and saw the 3 words, "Death Gate Left," he was slightly surprised. He always thought he had crossed into the world of the third year, but the remaining gate of death was clearly from the second year. Did my appearance change anything? Surprised, Wei Xun lifted his foot and walked into the left death gate, where Lei Ting and Zhong Wanjun had been waiting for a long time. Wei Xun looked at Zhong Wanjun following behind Lei Ting and couldn't help but curl his lips. The largest licking dog in the Ultimate series, licking until the end with nothing. Tell me, what's up with coming to me? Wei Xun spoke with a relaxed tone. Lei Ting took a step forward and said, Wei Xun, I want to see the scenery of combat power after 10,000 points. Is that all? Wei Xun raised his eyebrows. I have been stuck at 9,000 points of combat power for a long time, and I want to see the scenery of combat power after 10,000 points and seek my own breakthrough, Lei Ting said sincerely. If it were normal, Lei Ting would never beg people like this. But Wei Xun's appearance suppressed the entire Ultimate team with his own strength. This made her deeply moved. There are people outside the mountains. This time, Wei Xun is still able to reason. If there is another KO.2 or KO.1 appearing next time, and the other party is an unreasonable person, what will she do to protect the Ultimate team? The 9,000-point combat power index made Wei Xun feel a deep sense of powerlessness in front of her. Wei Xun put his hands in his pockets and said, Help you, I have the conditions. The combat power index of 10,000 points is the biggest level that all psychics have to go through. I helped you, what can you give me? Wei Xun said with a smile. After taking a deep breath, Lei Ting said, Can you talk about your conditions? What can you have? Let me think, the position of the leader of the Ultimate class. I don't need it, but the golden signboard of the Ultimate class is very important, Wei Xun said with a smile. P.S. Ladies and gentlemen, humble authors are online seeking flowers, monthly passes, reviews, reminders, rewards, and collections. 007, Hello, Lei Ting. Promise. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lei Ting frowned and looked at Wei Xun, I don't understand. Wei Xun stepped forward and explained, I know there are many people in the university industry who are not satisfied with you, nor with your position as the leader of the Ultimate class. So, what I'm thinking is, if someone dares to challenge you and fails, let them join the Ultimate class. It's only limited to those with a combat power index of over 5,000 points, and those below 5,000 points are really hard to see, Wei Xun said. Let all high-level psychic practitioners in the university community join the Ultimate class. Lei Ting's combat power index of 9,000 points is almost a horizontal presence in the entire university community, even though KO.1 and KO.2 are not available. Moreover, even with the emergence of KO.1 and KO.2, there is still Wei Xun's support, and the Ultimate team is completely invincible. What do you want to do? Lei Ting couldn't help but ask. If all the experts in the entire university world gather in the Ultimate class, it is hard to imagine what a powerful force the Ultimate class would be in the entire world of psychics. Wei Xun's expression remained indifferent. Isn't this obvious? I want to create an unprecedented and powerful force, so that the Ultimate class is not just a class, but also needs to dominate the university world and occupy a place in the entire world of psychic travelers. Wei Xun's words shocked Lei Ting a bit, as she has a place in the entire world of psychic travelers. The Ultimate class can dominate the entire college world, but it definitely cannot compare to those old folks. After all, there is a generation of geniuses in a generation, and it is unknown how many times the KO list has been refreshed. The experts who were originally on the KO list have all graduated, but it does not mean that they are not strong anymore. On the contrary, after so many years of sedimentation, those talents are the true masters of the entire world of psychic practitioners. And now what Wei Xun is saying is to let the Ultimate class occupy a place in the entire world of psychic travelers. What a grand prospect this is. If Wei Xun knew that Lei Ting was thinking so much, he might just laugh out loud. There is no other reason. The golden time and space power walker is already weak, and many people have lost interest in practicing power in the future. Therefore, the university community is already considered a top-notch presence in the entire golden time and space power walker world. The reason why Wei Xun wants to build a powerful ultimate team is entirely to prepare for a battle of good and evil. In the original plot, there were many united classmates in the ultimate class at the beginning, but when it came to fighting against the crazy dragon, only a few people remained. If this continues, the battle of good and evil in the golden space will definitely lead to an irreversible defeat for the good side. Only by uniting everyone can we create favorable conditions for a war of good and evil. After thinking for a long time, Lei Ting finally spoke up and said, "Okay, I promise you." Wei Xun smiled and looked at Lei Ting, knowing that she would agree. Wei Xun walked step by step towards Lei Ting, and his combat power index was constantly increasing. Wei Xun. 9,000, 9,500. 10,000, 11,000, 12,000. The reason for starting to increase the combat power index from 9,000 points is to make Lei Ting more intuitively feel the gap between them. Feeling the overwhelming momentum on Wei Xun's body, Zhong Wanjun behind Lei Ting involuntarily pulled out 2 marbles. Mighty Walker. Zhong Wanjun, belonging to Golden Time and Space, Power Index. 8,700, 12,000, KO ranking. KO.4, KO.1, Weapon. Glass Marbles, Trait. The most talented cultivator of the younger generation, a person born in heaven, every generation of KO. One is a person born in heaven, but it seems that this person born in heaven is not very lucky. Rather than saying it's a heavenly favor, it's more like heavenly jealousy. Because the outcome of each KO.1 is not so good, it can even be said to be very tragic. Lei Ting turned to look at Zhong Wanjun and said, "Wanjun, this is my business. Don't interfere." The current combat power index of Zhong Wanjun has soared to 8,700, in order to maintain the thunderous Wanjun that Lei Ting said earlier. But if Wei Xun does something he shouldn't do next, he doesn't mind exposing his combat power index in front of Lei Ting. Wei Xun looked at Lei Ting and whispered, "The combat power has reached its peak, prepare for defense." Lei Ting raised her hand like a purple light ball, and her own combat power index continued to rise. Lei Ting. 7,000, 8,000. 9,000, 90-50, Wei Xun. 12,000, 11,000, 10,000. 9,500, this is 9,500 pressure. After Wei Xun finished speaking, he suddenly punched in front of him, and a huge wave of supernatural energy instantly attacked Lei Ting. Lei Ting raised her other hand, and a purple light ball appeared on both hands. Then she merged the 2 light balls into one and threw them towards Wei Xun. Bang! The purple light ball collided with the air waves, producing a huge explosion sound. Wei Xun's aura was weakened by most of his strength, but he still broke through the sphere of light and swept through Lei Ting. Lei Ting crossed her hands in front of her chest and was pushed back 3 steps by the waves of air. Ha ha! Lei Ting bent down, panting heavily. But with an increased combat power of 500 points, there is such a big gap. Wei Xun took a step forward and his combat power instantly skyrocketed. Wei Xun. 9,500, 10,000. When Wei Xun's combat power index reached 10,000 points, Lei Ting clearly felt an unusual sense of oppression. Wei Xun gently raised his hand and said, "This is the pressure of 10,000 points of combat power." Wei Xun suddenly slapped and Lei Ting Qiang stood up straight, throwing more than 10 light balls in his hands one after another. But everything was in vain. The palm wind played by Wei Xun shattered the purple light balls one by one. Lei Ting's hands were filled with purple powers, and she propped her hands in front of her, intending to forcefully lend this palm. Bang! Unexpectedly, Lei Ting was completely lifted away by the palm of these 10,000 points of combat power. When he landed, He relied on Zhong Wanjun to catch him from behind, so as not to have an intimate contact with the ground. Zhong Wanjun released his hand that supported Lei Ting and was about to come forward to find Wei Xun to settle accounts. Wanjun coughed, "It's nothing to do with him." Lei Ting coughed up a mouthful of blood as soon as she spoke. But she still stopped Zhong Wanjun. "I asked him to do this, but if he can't accept it, it's because I'm too weak and it's not his business," Lei Ting said softly. If it were a life-and-death battle between the two, Lei Ting might have already laid down. However, Wei Xun kept feeding her tactics time and time again, making her feel the power of 10,000 points. Lei Ting wiped away the blood from the corner of her mouth and once again unleashed her own combat power index. Lei Ting. 90-70, the growth was not obvious, but Lei Ting was very surprised. "Wei Xun, I'll be waiting for you here tomorrow night. P.S. New books on the road, seeking flower reviews, monthly reviews, rewards, reminders, and collections." 008 Wang Dadong's phone number, fake Tian Xian's identity exposed. You are listening at novel FUL.audio. Upon hearing that Lei Ting was going to schedule a meeting with Wei Xun here tomorrow night, Zhong Wanjun suddenly felt a bit nervous. "Lei Ting, actually I can." Zhong Wanjun's words were on the tip of his tongue, but he still didn't say anything. He wants to say that he can also help Lei Ting feed her moves, but in fact, his combat power index is also over 10,000. But thinking of Lei Ting's thunderous words, he swallowed them back. "Wanjun, what else can you do?" Lei Ting asked in confusion. "No, it's nothing. It's getting late, I have to go back." Zhong Wanjun lowered his head and walked out of the left death gate. Lei Ting adjusted her breath slightly and then said to Wei Xun, "See you tomorrow." Wei Xun shrugged and said, "As long as you agree to my request, your strength will benefit me." Lei Ting quickly walked out of the left death gate and her voice reached Wei Xun behind her. "I promise you." Wei Xun smiled slightly and recruited the ultimate team, completing most of Jin Shikong's work. He walked aimlessly out of the dead door. At the entrance of the left death gate, Wei Xun stood still. Inside this dead gate, although it is dilapidated and mottled, there is not a single weed. Beyond the gate of death, there are countless vegetation growing abundantly, creating a vibrant scene. "It's indeed a good place," Wei Xun said to himself. Bell Wei Xun's phone suddenly rang, and he quickly picked up his phone to see that it was a call from Wang Dadong. Wei Xun picked up the phone and asked, "Dadong, what's up?" Wang Dadong said urgently, "Patrol, I have found significant clues. Come to the Welfare Society as soon as possible." Upon hearing Wang Dadong's words, Wei Xun quickly rushed to the location of the Ballet High School Welfare Society. And Wang Dadong and the Heartbroken are both here. When the Heartbroken man saw Wei Xun, he smiled and said, "This is Wei Xun's child, isn't it? I've heard the leader mention it a long time ago. The walking of 12 time and space is indeed a talented person." "Heartbroken person, I also know your name like thunder," Wei Xun praised. The Heartbroken man quickly waved his hand and said, "Where and where?" Wei Xun turned his attention to Wang Dadong and whispered, "Dadong, what did you find?" Wang Dadong immediately lowered his head and said mysteriously, "I've noticed that my skin has been getting worse lately. I just had a pimple on my head." The Heartbroken person immediately spoke up and said, "If you keep teasing, you should take it seriously, otherwise it will spread out seriously. Is it the ultimate specialty to suddenly make jokes while talking about important things?" As they were about to have a big conversation about acne, Wei Xun quickly interrupted them. "Dadong, to be serious, what happened when you said you found a clue?" Wei Xun asked. Wang Dadong then said solemnly, "Sun, look, if someone eats that powerful pill, their combat power index will become stronger, and their ranking will not be lower. We can beat all the experts on the KO list to see whose combat power has been drugged." Wei Xun looked at Wang Dadong with a speechless expression on his face. Wei Xun pointed at Wang Dadong and said to the heartbroken man, "Do you agree with this idea?" The heartbroken person immediately nodded and said, "I think what Wang Dadong said is very reasonable." Wei Xun. Sometimes facing two living treasures alone can be quite helpless. Wei Xun looked at Wang Dadong, whose brain was several hundred times smaller than his biceps, and said, "Dadong, a new class leader has arrived in the ultimate class today. The new class leader is the new class leader, what's it to me?" Wang Dadong said nonchalantly. "But her name is Tian Sini," Wei Xun said with a smile. "What's wrong with Tian Xin?" Tian Xin. What? Wang Dadong instantly looked at Wei Xun with a shocked expression on his face. Tian Xin, that is Wang Dadong's white moonlight, which is the greatest difficulty for Wang Dadong in his life. Do you know that a boy meets a kind-hearted older sister with the killing power at a naive age? Sun, are you not joking? Are you not joking? Is she really teacher Tian Xin? Wang Dadong held Wei Xun's shoulder with both hands and asked repeatedly. Wei Xun gently took down Wang Dadong's hand and spoke out to soothe him, "Dadong, please be quiet first. I'll ask you, do you have teacher Tian Xin's phone number?" Wang Dadong excitedly took out the phone and said urgently, "Of course there is." Wei Xun showed an enigmatic expression and said, "Dadong, please call teacher Tian Xin and ask where she is." Wang Dadong looked puzzled and said, "Didn't you just say that, Sun? Is teacher Tian Xin your new class leader?" The Wei Xun's combat power index skyrocketed in an instant. He carefully felt the surroundings, and after confirming that there was no one around, Wei Xun withdrew his troops. "Don't worry, Dadong, just do as I say," Wei Xun said sternly. Wang Dadong doubtfully dialed Tian Xin's phone number. In no time, a sweet voice came from the other end of the phone. "Hello, Dadong, how could you remember to call the teacher?" Tian Xin's voice over there was still soft and beautiful, which made Wang Dadong a little obsessed. Of course, Wang Dadong did not forget the main matter. "Teacher Tian Xin, I saw you at school today. It's been a long time since I saw you, and I feel inexplicably friendly," Wang Dadong said with a silly expression on his face. On the other side, Tian Xin was very surprised and said, "Ah. Dadong, I have already gone abroad for a long time. I am married now and I don't want to be a teacher anymore. Are you missing me too much? I have hallucinations." Upon hearing this sentence, Wang Dadong immediately reacted. Wei Xun has been wanting him to call Tian Xin because he suspects that Tian Xin in the school is fake. "I'm sorry, teacher Tian Xin. Maybe I read it wrong," Wang Dadong said with a face full of emotion. "Dadong, did you mention the school earlier? Are you still in school, pursuing a master's or doctoral degree?" Tian Xin asked on the other side. "Unfortunately, it's not a master's or doctoral degree. I almost became a high school student." Wang Dadong couldn't hear the voice on the other side at all, he was immersed in his own world. Then he hung up the phone indifferently. Wang Dadong turned his head, tears swirling in his eyes. "Sun, did you hear that just now? Teacher Tian Xin, she got married." At this moment, the man like a lion could no longer hold back his tears and lay on top of the heartbroken man, crying. White Moonlight got married. This matter may be a difficult pain to heal for anyone, unless he is Wang Dadong. Wang Dadong immediately pushed away the heartbroken person and said to Wei Xun, "Sun, I know what you're going to say. Is your class leader fake now?" Wei Xun nodded. "Not only that, she should be the source of banned drugs. As long as we catch her, we can explore the entire industry by following her example. P.S. New books on the road, Seeking Flowers, monthly reviews, reminders, and collections. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 009 Heartbroken Egg Noodles. You are listening at Novel FUL.audio. What are we waiting for? Let's hurry up and arrest that fake Tian Xian. Then we'll torture her severely and ask her to reveal the whereabouts of the banned drugs. Wang Dadong said while making exaggerated movements. Wei Xun frowned and said, "Are you a member of the society? You're so lazy when it comes to doing things." Wang Dadong said nonchalantly, "I'm not a member of the society, but my brother Wang Arthur is the crown prince of the Tulong gang." "He is." Wei Xun's silence was written on his face. A heartbroken person is useless as a muggle, and Wang Dadong is useless as a fool. Coming to golden time and space by oneself is to suffer. Don't scare the snake with the grass. Tomorrow we'll find a chance to follow her and see where her lair is. Wei Xun said. Wang Dadong immediately agreed, "I think it makes a lot of sense. So what should we do now?" "Of course it's going home to sleep," Wei Xun said with white eyes. He, who should have gone back to lie down long ago, ran over to listen to Wang Dadong talking a lot of nonsense here. Fortunately, the identity of fake Tian Xian has been confirmed, and Wang Dadong can carefully investigate this line, making it much easier for himself. At this moment, the heartbroken man suddenly reached out his hand and interrupted, "Two children, would you like to sit at my stall?" The heartbroken person has been doing two jobs all along now. One is selling some strange little things at the school welfare club. The other one is to manage his small stall that has been going through ups and downs for over a decade. "Sure, it's been a long time since I ate the egg noodles of the heartbroken man's son. I'll invite you to try the heartbroken man's craft once," Wang Dadong said happily. Wei Xun couldn't help but feel a chill as he remembered the scene in the original drama where the heartbroken person made a face. But unable to resist their enthusiasm, they eventually followed Wang Dadong to the heartbroken man's stall. This is under an overpass, and the heartbroken person has also changed into a pink and tender kitchen uniform with a steamed bun, and a white towel wrapped around his head. As Wei Xun sat down, his fluttering couplets looked very eye-catching. With the words of the emperor, no matter what, one's achievements will wither the bones. The horizontal inscription reads, "Heartbroken Man of Wind and Rain." It should be said that although the heartbroken man lost all his combat power, his own strength was forcefully disguised by him. Don't worry about whether the installation was successful or not, he always did. The heartbroken person rubbed his hands and asked, "Two children, may I ask what you want to eat today?" Wang Dadong smiled and said, "I want a bowl of egg noodles." Then the heartbroken man looked at Wei Xun and asked, "Wei Xun, what about you?" "Then I'll have a bowl of egg noodles too," Wei Xun said helplessly. "If you click, don't regret it." The heartbroken person's expression instantly became serious. Wei Xun waved his hand and said, "I don't regret it. You can do it." The foreplay of a heartbroken person is quite extensive, and his movements are not something that ordinary people can tolerate. I saw him hiding behind the curtain, using a knife to stab at an unknown place, and then exerting all his strength, revealing an extremely painful expression. Then he struggled to pull the curtain open, and his gloved hand had two more eggs. He put the eggs into two separate bowls of noodles and said tearfully, "Here, the egg noodles you want." Wei Xun looked at the egg in the bowl and dared not speak for a long time. "Two children, you must treat my two eggs well." Upon hearing this sentence, Wei Xun completely lost interest in the noodles in the bowl. Seeing Wei Xun's expression, the heartbroken person instantly changed his expression and said, "Wei Xun, aren't you afraid?" "Who is Wei Xun?" "That's a top assassin, the first person sent by the Moxibustian Dance Alliance leader to be an undercover agent in the golden time and space, the renowned 12-time and spacewalking." Upon hearing the heartbroken man's provocation, Wei Xun immediately patted the table and said sternly, "Yes, I dare not. Big brother, who can eat that action from you?" The next moment Wei Xun welcomed a slap in the face. I only heard the rustling sound of Wang Dadong next to me, and in just a few bites, I swallowed a whole bowl of noodles into my stomach. Wang Dadong looked at Wei Xun, who dared not move his chopsticks, and smiled as he spoke. The heartbroken person's movements were just a bit clumsy. In fact, the things in the bowl have little to do with the things on his body. Wang Dadong said with a mischievous smile, otherwise, he wouldn't have come from so many raw materials to make egg noodles. Wei Xun picked up his chopsticks with suspicion and picked up a piece of noodles to eat. At the beginning, Wei Xun didn't dare to taste the taste and just swallowed the dates. However, after carefully feeling the taste, Wei Xun slammed his mouth. It's really delicious. Wei Xun lifted his bowl and, like a whirlwind, swallowed the remaining noodles into his stomach. After finishing, he didn't forget to drink the soup together. Wei Xun exclaimed in surprise, "Heartbroken, your skills are really not bad. It would be even better if you didn't have those foreplays." The heartbroken person waved his hand and said, "Child, this is what you don't understand. This is the characteristic of the wind and rain heartbroken person." Wei Xun looked helplessly at the heartbroken man and Wang Dadong. They were a pair of living treasures. Wei Xun's gaze suddenly looked into the distance, and he always felt something secretly observing his side. Carefully perceive, but find nothing. Wang Dadong also felt this aura, but he also had a close connection with Wei Xun and did not express it. The power that even they cannot perceive, the opponent is definitely a higher-order psychic who surpasses them. In the Golden Age, even if there are experts they cannot defeat, it is not difficult to escape from the opponent's hands. But at this moment, there is still a heartbroken person by my side. Wei Xun silently placed his hand behind him, so that Ares' hand could be pulled out at any time. Wang Dadong also quietly clenched his fist. That aura was strong, but in the end, I gave up and came towards this side. After the obvious confrontation, the powerful aura quietly departed. The person with a broken intestine has a very active consciousness, and he immediately realizes that something is wrong. Two children, is there something wrong? Wang Dadong sighed helplessly and said, "It's a black dragon." Wei Xun was not aware of that aura, but as an old rival of the black dragon, Wang Dadong was completely familiar with the aura emanating from the black dragon. The person in the dark just now must be undoubtedly Black Dragon. Upon hearing that the person in the dark was a black dragon, the heartbroken person no longer thought much. Most likely, my younger brother came to see me, but he happened to meet the two of you. Black Dragon has always had a daydream of wanting to rule the world, and for this, he does everything he can to make anyone his pawn. Except for heartbroken people. Wei Xun took a deep look towards the direction where Black Dragon had left and said, "Are you really just here to see the heartbroken man?" Far away, the Black Dragon sat by the river with a deep sense of melancholy. "Damn Wang Dadong, being alone is enough to give me a headache. I don't know where to find another helper now. He naturally wants to have trouble with me, right? P.S. The humble author kneels down online to seek data, and the Flower monthly pass evaluation ticket urges for more collection. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 010 Chasing Fake Tian Xian. You are listening at novel FUL.audio. Others don't understand Black Dragon, does Wang Dadong still not understand? This guy was born to be against himself. Who is that kid next to Wang Dadong? It feels like he's even stronger than Tian Hongguang back then. Refining into a martial corpse must be great. Black Dragon said crazily. Sitting in front of the stall, Wei Xun suddenly sneezed. Ache. Wei Xun rubbed his nose and said, "I always feel like someone is craving my body." Wang Dadong patted Wei Xun's shoulder and said, "Sun, remember to keep warm." The next morning. Wei Xun has entered the ultimate class this time, and no one is looking at him with that murderous gaze anymore. Besides, Wei Xun walked over and stroked Hua Linglong's hair, saying with a smile, "Don't you think this black hair looks pretty good?" If we insist on having a whole head of yellow hair and matching you with a ghost fire, won't you become a spirited young man? King specifically instructed not to have any further conflicts with Wei Xun. So although Hua Linglong's gaze at Wei Xun was getting angry, he still chose to suppress it. Now facing Wei Xun, it will only be oneself who will suffer losses. Wei Xun walked step by step back to his seat and then fell asleep. Fake Tian Xian still walked into the classroom wearing the high heels that could remind people at any time. The crisp touch between the heels and the floor made the ultimate class realize that it seemed like the concept was being taught. As for Wei Xun, he was always keeping an eye on fake Tian Xian. Behind this person, it may appear to be a black dragon or Yehenara city. But from the final outcome, both Black Dragon and Yehenara city are just a source of medicine. They don't have any organized actions at all. So, these banned drugs are actually controlled by a so-called organization and distributed to major universities. And this fake Tian Xian's mission this time is to splash dirty water on the ultimate team. From the beginning, Wei Xun opened up a god's perspective, but he was not clear about the origin of this organization. But no matter what, this organization doesn't seem to lean towards the good side. Although Wei Xun lowered his head, he did not let go of his perception of fake Tian Xian all day. Approaching school, Wei Xun took out his phone and sent a message to Lei Ting. You don't have to wait for me tonight if you have something to do. As soon as the news was sent out, the bell rang for the end of school. Wei Xun put on his backpack, followed fake Tian Xian's footsteps, and even sent a message to Wang Dadong in his hand. Dadong, the target has moved, come quickly. Kakuta Xian carried her bag and walked home like an ordinary woman after work, completely unaware of the tracking behind her. When passing through an intersection, Wang Dadong arrived in time to meet with Wei Xun. Wei Xun just turned around and glanced at Wang Dadong, then turned around and saw no trace of fake Tian Xian. Wang Dadong gasped for breath and asked, "Patrol, where are the people?" Wei Xun said solemnly in his eyes, "I've lost you." Wei Xun's combat power index is as high as 17,000 points, coupled with the bug skill of Liuku Immortal Thief, he has an extremely keen perception of the vitality of surrounding things. It was in this situation that Tian Xian disappeared from his sight. It's a good move, but unfortunately we encountered the Six Treasures Immortal Thief, Wei Xun sneered. Liuku Immortal Thieves can absorb the vitality of everything around them to supply themselves and accelerate their own growth. So Wei Xun doesn't usually need to practice much. Even with just his breath, he can extract vitality from everything and transform it into a combat power index. This made Wei Xun's perception of life particularly strong. So even if fake Tian Xian disappears, he can still find the way for the other party to leave. Wei Xun slowly squatted down, feeling the flow of energy driven by the disappearing vitality just now. Before long, Wei Xun opened his eyes and said, "I found it." Wei Xun's footsteps sank and he quickly rushed out, with Wang Dadong closely following behind Wei Xun. Wang Dadong looked at the increasingly desolate surroundings and couldn't help but ask in a voice, "Patrol, are you really in this place? Why does it feel increasingly remote? My perception is not wrong, and her breath is getting closer and closer." Wei Xun said. Wei Xun and Wang Dadong eventually stopped at an abandoned factory. The factory looks abandoned for a long time, with mottled cracks on every wall. Wei Xun walked step by step towards the factory and said, "You can't leave, come out." Da. Fake Tian Xian appeared in front of Wei Xun wearing high heels. At this moment, she is different from her previous softness and sweetness, exuding a seductive aura all over her body. "Hey, handsome guy, you're in such a hurry to find me. Are you falling in love with me?" Faced with fake Tian Xian's teasing, Wei Xun was not ashamed. He chuckled lightly and said, "Yes, why don't we find a hotel and have a deeper conversation?" Kazuta Shin covered her mouth with one hand and smiled, while the other hand extended a finger and shook it, saying, "I can't do it today." The two sisters can't resist. Wang Dadong watched as fake Tian Xian spoke these disgusting words against his white moonlight face, and immediately became furious. The dragon pattern pan instantly appeared in his hand, and a red power index began to burst out from him. Wang Dadong. 11,000, 120000. 13,000, 14,000. 15,000, 15050. Wang Dadong's physique will never allow his combat power index to freeze at a certain point. For him, not making progress is like regressing. Wei Xun grabbed back with his left hand, and Ares' hand instantly covered his arm. Wei Xun. 14,000, 15,000. 16,000, 17,000. 17400. Wei Xun's combat power index is also constantly rising, and the two huge combat forces make the opposite Kikuta Shin have to take it seriously. Fake Tian Xian stepped forward with her high heels, and her combat power index quickly reached 11,000 points. This kind of combat power belongs to the absolute strength in the golden time and space. But in front of Wei Xun and Wang Dadong, it's clearly not enough to see. At this moment, fake Tian Xian took out a bottle of red small pills, which happened to contain 8. She lifted her head and poured all the medicine into her mouth. The combat power index rapidly increases with the use of banned drugs. 12,000, 13,000. 14,000, 15,000. 16,000, 17,000. 18,000, 19,000. Fake Tian Xian actually surpassed Wei Xun and the others by relying on the banned drug combat power index. Wei Xun and Wang Dadong looked at each other and smiled. This kind of waste that relies on drugs to accumulate. It's better to fight. Patrol, will you come or will I come? Wang Dadong chuckled playfully. Wei Xun's eyes gleamed as he stopped Wang Dadong and said, Dadong, go outside and wait for me. Wang Dadong smiled and put away the dragon pattern pan, walking out without looking back. P.S. I hope that the old officials can urge them to give away their flower monthly pass evaluation tickets. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.